In my opinion, there are so many hidden treasures and up-and-coming games with great potential in the indie game market, and I've made it my goal to find them and show them to you. So in today's video, we'll be going over several games, including a retro detective game, a pixel art Tarkov-inspired extraction zone game, a game that seeks to emulate the legendary GoldenEye from the Nintendo 64, a post-apocalyptic stalker-like game made in the cheesy Doom engine, and a Souls-like with great potential. I do want to preface this video by saying that all of these games, with the exception of Apocalyptic Vibes, are either in early access or are demos. If that's not your thing, then I totally understand, but I do choose these games because I see that they have great potential, and I think you should keep an eye out for their final release. With that all out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the video. The first game that I wanted to feature in today's video is Shadows of Doubt. This game is in early access, but I'm absolutely loving it so far. In Shadows of Doubt, you play as a private detective who goes around solving murder cases. There are other side cases that you could take on, but from what I found, the murders are the most interesting. And I think that what sets this game apart from other detective games or other games that have detective mechanics in them is that Shadows of Doubt is very open and does not point you in the right direction in any obvious way. In other games, you'll be able to see the evidence highlighted because the developers of those games don't want you to miss anything important. But in Shadows of Doubt, you'll often be sifting through the victim's emails and notes left on the calendar or notes thrown away in the trash can, and breaking into homes of people that they know to find any shred of connecting evidence to point you in the right direction. And it's not uncommon to find dead ends, and you have to go back and try to find more evidence in other locations. And to me, I love it because it really makes you think. Also, this game does seem to have a procedural generation for the cities and investigations. I played on the pre-made city with the pre-made intro investigation, but there are options for you to load into a randomized city with random investigations. I do hope that they open it up for the community to create and upload content into the game. Like, could you imagine communities making their own murder investigations? I think it's a great idea, and I do really hope that the developers implement that into the game. So I have really high hopes for this game, and I really recommend that you give Shadows of Doubt a try. The next game we are covering today is another early access game called Sievert. I've really enjoyed this game, I really have, but I can only play in short sessions because it is a very difficult and stressful game. It's essentially a single player top-down view pixel art escape from Tarkov game with some inspirations from Stalker as well. So if you're like me and you like the concept of an extraction shooter, but you aren't really into multiplayer games anymore, then this is probably the game for you. I'm not entirely sure what's all in the beta, as I've only been in the first few maps and have completed a handful of quests, but it is pretty impressive so far, and the trailers shown for the game do show some really cool looking areas and weapons and equipment as well. The combat is also excellent. It's not only hectic but incredibly lethal. It's interesting to see a top-down game like this decide to implement realistic combat mechanics and time to kill, but it ends up working out pretty well. Trust me, you will die a lot, but as you improve in not only your skill in the game, but also your equipment and your weapons, then you'll become more and more powerful and more confident to tread out into the world and try more risky missions. The game is also procedurally generated. Each map has its iconic locations that always spawn in, but they are placed in different areas or different sections of the map, and the enemy and loot locations are shuffled around as well. There's not a whole lot more to say about this game, but with my experience with it, I do highly recommend trying Zero Sievert out. Agent 64, Spies Never Die, is a very obvious homage to GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64. And that's it. That's all you really need to know. But if you do want to know some more, then I can tell you that it is actually quite good. The gunplay works well even with a mouse and keyboard while still maintaining the auto aim from the original GoldenEye on the controller. From the one level that's in the demo, the level design seems to be pretty good, and it even keeps the mechanic from GoldenEye of adding more objectives on harder difficulties, and they've added par times for you to have as a goal. And of course, there are already people speedrunning the one level in the demo. I mean, is there anything else I really need to say for you to be interested in this game? It's literally GoldenEye on PC. So this game is interesting. It's the only fully released game in the video, and I'll be honest and say that a lot of people probably won't like it, and that's perfectly okay. I only like it because I like games like Stalker and Metro that have a really slow-paced gameplay, but great apocalyptic vibes. And on top of that, it's also running on the GZ Doom engine, which I love mods and games that run on the GZ Doom engine. So Apocalyptic Vibes is a great concept for me because it fills my niche. But I think if you told anybody that you found a game that was inspired by Metro and Stalker, but in the GZ Doom engine, then it would immediately turn some heads, which it has, and rightly so. It has great apocalyptic vibes. And on top of that, the sprite work and the environmental detail is also top notch, especially for the GZ Doom engine. Saying that though, the gameplay is pretty repetitive. Your only enemies are bandits, and the only real combat is just shooting the bandits, and that's it. You can be pretty smart with when you decide to leave a safe area and go into combat by checking the weather on the radio. When it's raining, you need to cover yourself with a hood because the rain is acidic. and when it's foggy, you need to wear a gas mask and keep a good stock of filters so you don't get killed by the poisonous and radioactive fog. Like I said, you can pay attention to the weather radio and be pretty smart about waiting it out in a safe area, but that's really the extent of decisions that you make in the game. But saying that, I will commend the developer for still making a pretty dang unique game, and they've done a really good job at sticking with the game and fixing the bugs. I do hope that this game has some DLC that introduces some more content and much needed enemies and weapons to the game, but for a short $20 game made by one person, it does its job and in a pretty good way, as it's still rated very positive on Steam. I do recommend Apocalyptic Vibes, but only to those that understand and like the niche that this game is in. And the final game of this video is Lies of P. I remember when I saw the first trailer for this game and I was like, holy shit, it's Bloodborne, but on PC. I have personally never played Bloodborne because I've never owned a PlayStation console, but I have played all the Dark Souls games and Elden Ring. FromSoft Soulsborne games are some of my favorite of all time, so it's no surprise that I do really like this game as well. Not only that, but this is the best feeling Soulsborne game not made by From Software that I've played so far, and they did so many things right to get that From Software feeling. Incredible atmosphere and art design, great world building, and good feeling combat. They even got the voice acting right.
It's a shame. He took off for Elysian Boulevard, and he never came back. If it doesn't turn up soon, we'll have to make a new coffin.
In fact, the only thing that I don't really like in the game is the Jiminy character, who talks quite a bit. Not sure why this character was added to the game, but he can be pretty annoying and really does not fit into the Soulsborne game feeling, if you kind of understand what I'm getting at there. One other minor critique I have is that you don't get much distance out of the dodge, which causes me to spam the dodge button in order to get to a safe distance from an attack. This is an odd choice because in other Souls games, the dodge is something that, when done right, you only need to use one precisely timed dodge to get out of the way of an attack. I didn't quite realize that this game also emphasizes blocking in a way similar to Sekiro until near the end of the game, so I will admit that a lot of my issues would have been solved by that. But still, I do recommend for the developers to make the dodge a little stronger. But seriously, those are my only critiques for the game, and they are very minor at that. Literally everything else about the game is fantastic. It's one of the first games that copies FromSoft games and manages to get those mechanics nearly as good as From Software themselves, but they do just enough to separate themselves from Software and the other developers making Soulsborne games. I'm very excited for the full release of this game, and I highly recommend for you to go and play this free demo as soon as you can. Alright, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. This is, I believe, the third video of this type that I've made where I've been focusing on underrated indie games, and I hope you guys are enjoying it, because I've been enjoying playing a much more diverse set of games than the standard AAA gaming experience, and it's just been fun finding all these underrated games that I feel need more exposure than they're getting. So have you tried these games? And if you have, what do you think about them? And also, I'm open to receiving suggestions from you guys as well. So if you have a game that you feel is an underrated indie game, then feel free to comment down below and I'll be sure to check it out. But anyways, until the next video, have a good one.